if you're in the will of God, I mean, God's going to be with you. I mean, not to say that you're going to be protected from any kind of harm. I mean, anything we do, there's going to be risk in it. I mean, just going to work in your car, there's risk. Every time I get on the road, I'm like, man, how can you, like, we have to have more faith in everybody else on the road that they're not going to hit us, or they're not going to do something silly, or if they're drinking, or, like, that has to be way more. But when God asks you to do something, it's going to be uncomfortable. And so one thing I try to teach the kids is to be comfortable being uncomfortable, because anything God asks you to do is going to be bigger than you, or it's not going to be worth doing. And so it's just going to be of you. But whenever He asks you to do something, it's usually going to be out of your comfort zone. And so that's big things anyway. So that way He can show up and He can get the glory for it. And you can say, that definitely wasn't me.
Hey, Danielle Walker here. I'd love for you to check out my online boutique, Lux Lion. My mission for Lux Lion is to showcase innovative African designers and sustainable mission-driven brands. To do that, I bring you stunningly beautiful handcrafted jewelry and accessories from some of my absolute favorite places on earth. Small batch wholesale for storefronts is also available. Join me in celebrating African artistry and shop now at luxlion.us. Use promo code FREEDOM for an additional 10% off your purchase. Welcome everybody to For the Love of Freedom. Today is Wednesday, September 17th. It's 10 a.m. Central. I'm coming to you live on Voice of the People USA TV and radio network on Rumble, X, YouTube, and Facebook. Wherever you're watching or listening, please like it, share it with your friends, leave comments. It helps me out so much with the algorithms, and it gets the voice of truth out there. So please do that. I am your host, Danielle Walker, and on this show, we meet people who've rejected the status quo, rejected convention, and each in their own way are working to bring freedom to the world. Joining me today, let me bring them on, are two people who are so dear to my heart. They are family. Stephen and Candace Crothers are living and working in a remote village in Honduras called La Mosquitia. Stephen is a mechanic and a pilot, and Candace is a nurse. And together they serve the people of La Mosquitia and the surrounding areas with emergency medical treatment and transport, and by showing the love of Christ. Welcome, Stephen and Candace. It is just such a treat to have you with me today.
Hey, Dan, so great to be here. Thanks so much.
We're excited.
It was my dad's idea to do this. He was like, you should have Stephen and Candace on before they go back to Honduras. So thanks, Dad. Shout out to you. Great idea. Well, I love to start out the show and frame it with a scripture. And today's scripture is Acts 1:8. It'll be a very familiar passage to you. It says, I promise you this, the Holy Spirit will come upon you, and you will be seized with power, and you will be my messengers to Jerusalem, throughout Judea, the distant provinces, even to the remotest places on earth. And I obviously brought that scripture because you are living and working in one of the what feels definitely like one of the remotest places on earth. Let me see. So why don't we start? I don't want to start really there. I want to go back before you got to the remotest place on earth, and tell me how you two met. And I just want to say that this is going to be really fun, because some of the questions I have for y'all today, I know the answers to, but a lot of them I don't. And these, because, whenever when we get to visit, there's a lot going on. And so you don't always get to know, you don't always get to dig into this stuff. So this is an absolute treat for me as well. So let's go back to the way back. How did y'all two meet?
We met in college. We had tons of mutual friends growing up, but we never crossed paths until Nichols.
Yeah, we met at the BCM in Nichols. And I don't know if this was the first interaction, but one of the first interactions, like, I already knew that I wanted to be a missionary. And one of the first memories of Stephen I have is he is going around handing everybody a Pray for Sudan prayer card. And I was like, who is that? So that was when I started crushing on him pretty soon.
As you should, as you should.
Yeah.
Now, that was what you kind of touched on what I was going to ask you next, which is your call to the mission field. So, Candace, you already knew that you were called to the mission field. Maybe tell me a little bit about that. And then, Stephen, was Candace first and the mission field was second, or how did that all happen?
Yeah, I guess as a teenager, I started feeling called to missions. I think just in the church in general, there was like a huge missions push and young people going to the field. And, I took several trips and fell in love, and it just got in my blood, And so at some point, the Holy Spirit confirmed it in me, and I went to college looking at what should I do in order to be able to use on the field,
Awesome.
Yeah.
And then you became a nurse. So
yeah,
that's awesome.
Yeah. There's several majors. I landed on being a nurse.
I think we all have several majors in our pasts.
Yeah, except for I only have one. I guess one degree, but yeah.
Yeah, you can. That's the same as me. One, the main degree, but then there was a path to get there.
Right.
And what about you, Stephen?
I feel like God put a love for people in my heart as a kid. When we were in Vacation Bible School. I think I was like 6 or 7. We were taking up offering with the Lottie Moon for the Lottie Moon Missionary offering, and I just felt God he said, you're gonna just put a desire to help people and to do that. And so I actually got to go share on this furlough at church. It's the first time I've been back in probably 30 years. It was pretty special because I got to sit, I could see it, and I got to sit in the seat where I feel like God put the love and the call in my heart, and just to share with the congregation there and that the things they're doing are special. And sometimes it feels like, the little things that you do, and even for Sherry, for sharing Vacation Bible School with the kids, sometimes it doesn't feel like they're listening, they're just all over the place, but the things that they're doing are making an impact. And for the kids there too, even
that's amazing. So a full circle moment.
Yeah, it's pretty neat.
That is so cool. And for the viewers, Stephen and I grew up together since we were teeny tiny. Stephen lived in my house for a while. He's part of the family. They're part of the family. We met Candace shortly after you met Candace because you brought her around. So anyway, it's just this is just
and y'all were in our wedding.
Yes, exactly. Exactly. This is such a special opportunity for me. So let's talk a little bit about La Mosquita. Am I saying it correctly? La Mosquita?
La Mosquitia.
Yeah, La Mosquitia.
Oh, Mosquitia. Okay. I feel like, down here in South Louisiana, we feel like we live in the land of La Mosquita. So,
Yeah.
But tell us about it. What's the place like? The people like? Tell us about your work and home setup. Just for people who have absolutely no idea what living in a remote village in Central America, Central America would be like.
La Mosquitia is basically like another country it's in Honduras, but it's a forgotten place by the government, and they don't get any real help from them. There's one real hospital in the capital town with about maybe 2 miles of paved road in all of La Mosquitia. And we live about 70 miles from the biggest town there, the capital town, that has about a 5,000 foot gravel runway. And it takes us on average about 4 hours to get there. That's where we get all of our groceries. And if we need some stuff, hardware things, or just basic stuff, we can get there.
4 hours to the closest grocery. Yeah. Just want to underscore that.
But it's only, so normally here in the States, you can get there, maybe an hour, a half maybe, tops. But yeah, it is just everyone there is, they seem pretty content.
Yeah, I mean, it's a very poor
Mhm.
people, poor culture. They don't have a lot of means.
They have
They,
crops every
yeah,
year.
they work their crops. That's how they, they live off their own crops, and they make probably on average like $8 to $10 a day is a normal.
If they work.
Yeah, if they have a job, like
Yeah.
it's there's not a lot of job opportunities in our village. There is a macaw sanctuary in the next village over, and some people get jobs with that project, so that's a blessing. And then last year there was like every summer, I guess it would be like probably from about February to May or June, there's a firefighting position because there's lots of wildfires. So they can get jobs doing that too, which is very, very hard job.
No
They go out and
kidding.
they
Yeah.
make fire breaks with machetes, and so
Yeah.
they cut 8 to 10, probably 10 to 12 foot sections of fire breaks with machetes and hose, and so just miles and miles. They just basically go around the perimeter of the villages, and try to keep the fires out. Because the past 2 years, the fires have been really bad.
Mm-hmm.
They've come to
so
the
close
village.
to the village. Yeah, sometimes in the village. Yeah.
Because it was just really dry. Our well ran out those past 2 years. This past year we were good, but the past 2 years we ran out of water for probably 2 months, 2.5 months, I think.
Yeah.
But there's other wells there, hand wells that
Okay.
you can get water from, and so
Wild. Now, how long have y'all been there, and how old were your kids when you moved there?
a little over 4 years.
4.5 years.
Okay.
We moved to Honduras in January of 21, and we were in language school for almost a year. And then in December of 21, we moved to Roos. That's the name of our village.
Okay.
Yeah, almost 4 years in Roos. Mm-hmm.
Milo was 14.
So your oldest was 14, and your youngest was
3.
3. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Crazy. Now, when were you nervous about bringing your kids?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, up to an extent. I mean, I guess the years leading up to us moving, like God really had to do a lot in my heart, just as in trusting Him and believing that He was going to keep us. And, I mean, even not just the safety issue, but the giving up of a culture, like playing sports and having friends. And I mean, we were always homeschooled, but like having co-ops or, anything like that, like we also had to trust God in that He was going to, we knew we were moving to a remote place. Like, how are our kids going to do? Like, are they going to be okay? Are they going to be depressed? Or they're, those are all things we had to think about and wrestle with and decide to trust God in,
And how's it working? How are
Great.
they doing?
Yeah,
Really
our oldest one, Mila, she would probably say she wants to go back too, but they're ready. They're saying, "I'm ready to go home now." They, the kids in the village. They play with the kids in the village. So, I mean, even though it's a very small village, they have good relationship with the kids and the teens there, and they just like the slow pace of life that we have over there. So.
Definitely not city folk, and it works out really good.
Yeah.
Now, when people think about missionaries, I think you think about holding church services, maybe going door to door to tell people about Jesus. What does it look like in your life? Because I think, with you being a pilot and a nurse, maybe there's a different emphasis there.
Yeah, we have a couple different. I mean, we can have a different reach for people. Our main tool is the airplane, but we just use it as a tool to share the love of Jesus with the people. And so when people need medical care, there's no access there, no advanced care. And so we're able to take them into the city, which would take 2+ days. We can do it in about 2 hours. But each flight, we try to pray with the family and just give them hope. And, just connect with them and encourage them to love Jesus and trust Him in things. And the clinic is a really good area for us. Candace is able to, she's spends time with the patients there and is able to have one-on-one time. And so there's opportunities there to just be able to sit and they're one thing about the culture is they're not like us. They're not task oriented. It's a very people and time just culture. So they know how to sit and just listen and talk. And so that's one thing we're learning. But it's really good to be able to share because they're usually receptive to listen. And so it gives opportunities to share.
Yeah.
And how's the language barrier?
Well, most people in our village speak Spanish. In La Mosquitia, the languages are Mosquito and Spanish. So the majority of the people that live in the Honduras side of La Mosquitia speak Spanish also. But we live about 5 miles from Nicaragua. And so we get a lot of patients that travel from Nicaragua and come to the clinic. So a lot of those people don't speak Spanish, so we have to, of course, have a translator. But, like I said, most of the people in the village speak both, so it's easy to have a translator.
And what's the reception been of y'all being there by the local people? How have they received you?
They've been very gracious, and they were excited to have the airplane back because it had been probably about 5 or 6 years since the previous missionary. They had retired. So there was no airplane for about 5 or 6 years. So when we came, we may not always hear what people are actually saying, but
sometimes that's for the best, right?
Yeah. But I think the large majority are super grateful and realize that it's a huge blessing to have the airplane, to have the free clinic, for access to medical care. So yeah, but it is also a culture that you have to develop relationship always. It's not like us. We cannot see people for, months and months and just pick up where you left off. Everybody's busy, but they're like, if it's been a couple of weeks since I've seen somebody, they're like withdrawn. And I'm like, oh man, you got to kind of like draw it out again. And
Okay.
So it's, it takes a lot of cultivating relationships for sure.
Wow. And share some stories. I know y'all have so many. Talk a little bit about some of maybe a rescue mission, and then, share some funny stuff too, because I know there's got to be some really hysterical moments based on just the cultural differences and, your view of things has got to be coming from such a different place. To start out with, just share some stories.
Share about
Doris?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, this is probably one of our favorite stories. So last year we had a doctor come visit, and she was teaching us cervical checks, a certain way to do cervical checks to screen for cancer. Said, hey, do y'all have an ultrasound machine? And we did, but it was like from the 70s. And I mean, I'm a nurse. So I don't do ultrasound. I'm not familiar with it. I don't know what I'm looking at. Yeah. But especially on this machine was just blur. I had no clue. So she was like, you know what? I have a nonprofit where I gift other nonprofits that work in poor communities ultrasound machines. And so she brought us a portable ultrasound machine and trained me on it. And so I started doing a lot of pregnant women. I started just trying to learn and see what I could see. So one day we had one of our pregnant girls came in, and she was bleeding because she had fallen, slipped in some mud, and done like a split. Okay. And she was bleeding. So I took the ultrasound machine out. She was probably about 5 months, not very far along, and not really far enough along like that the baby would be viable if something was happening, So we did the ultrasound machine. We did the ultrasound, and it showed that she had placenta previa, which means the placenta was over the cervix, had grown over the cervix, and she had an abruption. So it had detached from the uterus, and it wasn't a complete abruption, but it was a very large abruption. So we called ahead to the hospital. It was at night, so we couldn't fly the plane, but Stephen packed up the truck, put her in the truck, and we sent her with some fluids, and I called ahead and said, look, we have this abruption. This is a medical emergency. So when he got there 5 hours later, the miracle was that God sustained her life through that very rough trip. You know, I mean, she was bleeding. She was so weak by the time she got there, but they knew, they had heard, you know, we had called ahead and they knew what was happening, and they were ready for her in surgery. They gave her IV fluids. The baby didn't make it because she wasn't far enough along, but Doris's life was saved through that. And I just was so just in awe that God, you know, like we just see that he's always preparing the way for himself, you know, like he makes provision for whatever his plans are. And so that he would give us that he would prepare that way, and that he would just show Doris his care for her in that just very hard and traumatic time. You know, it was just such a blessing to see that and to be a part of that. And she recovered well, and she's doing well now. So praise God. We just praise God for that.
Wonderful.
His provision. Yeah.
Yeah. And you go ahead, Stephen.
No, you got. I had a different story, but you can go ahead.
Yeah, no, go ahead with your other story.
It was it was a guy in about his mid-20s. He came in late one night, and his horse had bucked, and his saddle hit him in the stomach. So he was hurting really bad, and he came in, and we had the ultrasound in, and we were just kind of seeing, and it looked like he might have had a liver laceration, but we weren't sure. And so he was, we waited. At that time, our base vehicle was broken, and so we didn't have an option to leave at night. And so, but first light, we put him in the airplane, and we brought him to one of the hospitals there. And a lot of times with patients, we don't really know what happens to them because we never get to see him again. And so about a month later, I was in town shopping, and I saw the hospital administrator from that hospital, and he asked me, I said, hey, he asked if I knew about the patient. I said, no, I haven't seen him. He said, well, when he got into surgery, the doctor said he was about an hour from losing his life.
Wow.
He was all full of infection and blood everywhere and stuff. And so that was kind of neat to be able to hear that, you know, what we're doing is helping. And
so he recovered.
Yeah, he recovered, and he's fine after they were able to help him, and it was neat.
That's amazing. Now tell me a little bit about some cultural moments that you've had where it's just been hysterical in the eyes of an American.
Every day.
Oh, I'm going to tell the frog story. Okay. So, when we first got there, after a few weeks, we got a bunch of chickens. We bought some chickens from a lady, and there was already a chicken coop in our yard. So we had the chickens in there. Well, after, you know, several weeks or months, I don't even really know the time frame, but we ended up hatching like a bunch of chickies, like 18 chickies.
Wow.
And it was like really great. And so they would go in this spot that was completely closed off at night. There was no way for anything to get in or out, and they would stay there at night. It was all fenced in. But then I noticed them starting to get sick, and they just started dying off, all these chickies. And we ended up with 2 chickies left out of 18. And so one of the guys in the village, Austin, his name is, he was like, you know what I think the problem is? I think it's a frog. A frog's licking your chickens at night. And I'm like, what are you talking about? He's like, yeah, frogs, they lick the chickens and it could kill them because they're venomous. The frogs are venomous. And I'm like, they're not like poison dart frogs. They were talking about toads, you know?
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay, Loston. I'm like, it's all closed off. There's nothing that can get in there, but frogs were licking them apparently. You know, time went on. We ended up building another chicken coop and moved all the chickens over. And he was tearing it down one day, and he says, Jackie, come here. And I said, and he's like, look at this. And he had taken everything down, and the posts that were in the ground, the post that was in that spot, it was opened to where the chickies stayed at night. There was a toad living in there. It rotted out, and there was a toad. And I was like, oh my gosh. And then, you know, they say, And sure enough, it was a toad. So
And he
I'm
was
being a
licking
lot.
your chickies.
Yeah, he was licking our chickies.
That is so crazy.
So yeah, that was one thing. Culturally, I was like, they just all of Honduras think the frogs are poisonous. They're scared of frogs, but I was like, with reason. So
Look at that. Not just superstition.
yeah.
Are there some weird belief systems that you've encountered being there where you're like, why would you think that? Or it's just things that are maybe superstitious?
Yeah, they have lots of superstitions, and there's some kind of witchcraft stuff mixed in their beliefs, and like they do when the baby's born or an animal, even sometimes they'll do tie a red band around their wrist so you can see the wrist first before you look at the baby.
What is that
Keep your
supposed to do?
ward evil spirits off.
Snake bites. If you get bit by a snake, like you can't look at the person or you're gonna die.
Yeah, like pregnant women. Pregnant women can't look at a person. So there was one woman who her 1.5-year-old, got bit by a snake, and she was in there, but she would not look at him because she was pregnant, and she was like, my baby's gonna die if I look at him. So she was like very standoffish and not wanting to interact with her son who was bitten by a snake because she thought her baby in utero was gonna die. So I mean, there's lots of like what we would call old wives' tales. People will say, if this I'm kind of not thinking. I can't think of like anything in particular, but like us, we have, if you walk under a ladder or if a black cat walks in front of you, things like that nobody really believes that, but people say that, so there's things like that, but there are more serious things like the snake thing.
We had a worker, a cattle ranch owner, his worker got bit by a snake and he needed to be transported to the hospital in the airplane, and he did not want to get in the airplane with him. He's like, I can't get in, I'm gonna die. Because the guy's gotten bit.
Or who's his wife, because it's something about pregnant women. Yeah, but they do say that snakes will chase after pregnant women. Really? And I mean, I don't know, that might actually be something because of hormones. I wouldn't totally discount that one, but people say that, so I'm like, that might actually be true. I could see how that could be.
Yeah, definitely. Well, it also seems kind of biblical.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah,
I think that's in Revelations. Now, Candace, you have made a great friend who is your Uber Eats driver. Would you talk about him?
Yes. Yeah, so when we first moved to Roos, the Stephen and Brad, our teammate, they were going at least every 2 weeks to go get groceries, take that 5 hour. At that point, it was 5 to 6 hour drive because the roads were bad. And they were going every 2 weeks about to get groceries. And then not too long, probably several months into living there, we met Guy Rai. And he used to work for MAG. He used to be the administrator for the hospital, or our clinic in Roos. And then he's a pastor. And so, but he also has a ranch past our village. So he comes with his cattle truck empty, fills up with cattle, and then goes back to Lempira. And so he was like, look, if y'all ever need anything, I can pick up your groceries. I can go to the hardware store for you. So now we WhatsApp our grocery list, which I just did this morning because we're about to head back. And he goes pick it up and drops it off. And it's like Instacart of La Mosquitia. In a cattle truck, but I'm not complaining.
No, and did it come? I think I saw a video that you shared of it coming over in a boat.
No,
he transported some cattle in a boat.
He transported cattle in a boat. Yeah.
Some wild stuff, man.
Yeah, I have no idea. I would love to go on that trip with them to see how they get them in and out.
Oh my gosh. It's a 25-foot boat probably, huh?
That's like 3 feet wide.
3 feet wide, enough to fit 2 cows side by side.
I would not want to be in that boat, Stephen.
No,
I would not. One false move, one angry cow, and you're in the water.
Yes.
Well,
Great.
y'all have touched a little bit about, or Candace, you have, about the Lord's teaching you to trust Him
Mm-hmm.
with your kids. Would you talk maybe a little bit about some of the things He's taught you outside of that, about trusting Him in a foreign place, so far away from family, so far away from convenience?
Mm-hmm.
I feel like a lot of it, you know, your life just has to be kind of holding on loosely, if you hold on at all.
Yeah. Yeah, I think everything is it's not just being flexible, it's being fluid. You know, things change so quickly, you know, and especially the nature of what we do is, you know, I mean, you just have to be ready at any time, you know, something comes in the village that you, I mean, you're just doing life as normal and then, you know, all of a sudden you're 100 miles an hour, you know. So, yeah, I think that's one thing that God has taught us. I mean, when we first moved there, it was the kids really adjusted probably faster than I did. They fell in love and they were like, we love this place, wide open spaces. They were getting to play all the time. But it took me a little while to find contentment. And so I wrestled with that for a while just because, you know, I missed going to meet my friends at coffee shops or, you know, just being able to go to the grocery store anytime I wanted.
Yeah.
So it did, but he gave me this verse and I clung to that and I spoke it so often so that it would become truth. It was makes everything beautiful in its own time.
Mm.
And you know, when you first would have asked me, you know, people asked me, "Do you love it?" One of my missionary friends in Honduras, she's like, "Do you love it there?" I was like, "Love is a strong word," but now I can say that I do because He's made it beautiful in its time, you know. So I'm so grateful for that, that He, you know, I can't even imagine us doing anything else. So I'm just so blessed by that, that he, you know, it's what He did to change me. He didn't change anything in our situation. He changed me, you know, and that's the big takeaway that it's us that He needs to change.
Yeah, it's
So,
true. What about you, Stephen?
Yeah, just I think before we left, I had a moment where I had to, like, I felt God to say, I mean, you have to, are you going to trust me even if something really bad happens? And I mean, I had to just come to the realization that, I mean, I have to because, um, I mean, everything is in His hands and He's going to work everything for His good, good things and bad things, which I've gotten to see how God um, can work bad situations into good. Being able to look back at things that have happened and see how He connects the dots and works in the background whenever we don't see anything. Sometimes we're just seeing a wall and we're just trying to push through or go around it or wait and knock at the door. And He's working something from another corner, from a different way. And if we weren't waiting and something, an inconvenience or something didn't happen, then we wouldn't have gotten the answer to our prayer or whatever it is, or an answer for someone else. And so
mhm.
just making the decision to say yes, I trust you with everything, uh, and it's a daily thing too, not just a one-time decision. It's kind of, you
Mhm.
know, so
Yeah, yeah. And one thing with trust that I remember that I guess was just, you know, a question asked by the Holy Spirit, like, you know, in the preparation and in the process, like, God, can I really trust you? And then He's like, who are you going to trust? Yourself? Like, do you have all the ability to control your life and to protect your children uh, completely? You know, like you know, so that really brought it into perspective. Like, I can't do anything more, but obviously a lot less than God can, you know. Um, so that was,
Yeah,
I remember that.
that's a good word. And you have been homeschooling your kids there. How has that
Yeah.
been? Challenges with the internet, challenges with, I don't know. Uh, I can't even imagine what the challenges are.
Yeah. Lots of challenges for sure. Yeah, at the beginning, internet was really spotty. I mean, we had a lot of our stuff was in book form, but we did have some things that were online. And when our internet would go out for like a month at a time, the kids were like, I can't do my work, Mom. The internet's not working. So yeah, that. But now we have Starlink, so that's a huge help, and we never run out. Although on cloudy days, it does affect it some. It's a lot slower sometimes, but
It was probably 2 years or so before we got good internet.
yeah, at least.
And
Yeah.
battery power. We were running on generator at first. Sometimes we were running the generator 12 hours a day, and it was just way too expensive.
Yeah.
We ended up we have solar now with some pretty good batteries, and so we have power every day for the most part.
Yeah, thank God.
How do you keep them motivated?
For school?
Yeah.
Consequences? Yeah, I mean, it's definitely, I feel like for my older kids, because we've always homeschooled. For my older kids, I felt like I was a lot funner homeschooling. And now our second set, Jojo and Sybil, we had the first three and they were really close. And then 5 years later, we had the second set. So, I'm like, man, I'm not as fun of a homeschool mom as I used to be. So I'm like, let's just get this done. Because it's really hard to balance. For me, it's hard to balance the ministry and the people who always need you, and trying to get your kids. So this year, I think I did a better job than previous years of like putting boundaries and saying, hey, look, no, I can't come in right now. I can't go to the clinic, or they're going to have to wait, if it was an emergency.
Yeah.
Sorry, I'm schooling with my kids right now, So I did a better job with that this year and so last year. So I think this year my focus is going to be just to do funner stuff with my little kids.
Well, I think that's an excellent thing. And I can't imagine, I mean, you got to give yourself some grace in that too, because you talked about how much the local people require kind of continual relationships. So it's got to be a really hard thing to balance, like saying, how do I put up boundaries? How do I say no if I know that maybe this boundary is going to cause me, a little more difficulty in connecting the next time I talk to them or something.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think it's also just being upfront and honest with people, not expecting them to know and understand what we're doing, but just saying, hey, look, I this is what I'm working on right now. I need to be able to do this, and then, I think what I've noticed is that, if they may not have understood what you were doing before and then you explain it and they're like, oh, well, that makes sense. Okay. Yeah, go ahead, So, yeah.
But you have to, because they don't know boundaries, and if they need something, they're gonna come to you and just say, "Hey." And you could be in the middle of surgery, like doing something, and they'll just go, "Hey, can you help me with this?"
No, they really don't. I mean, but that's their culture. They're just always at each other's houses. Like I remember our nurse. she's Mosquitia, and she was sick one weekend. And she was like aching, she was in bed, but there were kids in her house, like village kids just hanging out and playing at her house. And I'm like, Salema, why are you letting all these kids in your house? She's like, oh, they just always come over. And so it's just different. I mean, they're just very communal, and they just are at each other's house all the time and visiting, and it doesn't, there really are not many boundaries, and I don't think in this culture there's even a value of privacy. Like they don't even know what that would mean, privacy.
Wow.
So
That's a culture shock.
Yes. As Americans, we value our privacy, right?
Yes, 100%.
And so it's something that we have to balance, because we want to be involved in the community and we want them to trust us and to want to come to us, but also, we do like privacy too.
Yeah.
But we have some missionary friends in across the border in Nicaragua, but they are fully living like mosquito. She said, yeah, we have people in our house all the time from the time we wake up to the time we go to sleep. Like there's people in our house.
My
And
gosh.
so we haven't gotten to that level, you know, and I really admire her for that. But we do still try to, you know, cultivate those relationships.
Yeah. And there's another missionary family on your base, like close by, right?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
So that's got to be kind of, in a way, a lifeline of just like we can connect on some main points of mutual understanding,
Right.
not like it's it's just different when you come from a similar cultural
Mm-hmm.
background.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Cool. Well, y'all shared a video with me, and I thought I would take the opportunity to play the video,
Oh, cool.
and give people a little flavor of what your life is like. So let me play that now. What beautiful people, what
Yeah.
beautiful country. I mean, it's just amazing. And one thing I was really struck by is that it's not a convenient place to live. I can see that. But it seems like the lack of convenience is what causes community to be necessary,
Mm-hmm.
right? And you think
Right.
about our own culture and how convenience has actually separated us from people.
Mm-hmm.
It's allowed us to not have to live in community, but we were made to live in community. We were made to rely on each other. And I think we make our own lives more difficult and less fulfilling by being such an Amazon, Uber Eats type of culture. You really lose human connection.
Right.
Yeah.
How
Yeah.
how would you describe the people? I mean, it looks like it's a very joyful people.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, for sure. I mean, yeah, life is hard, and I feel like in our community there is just a blessing of I don't know, just a spirit of blessing. I mean, there's definitely people who have it hard. You know what I mean? Their lives are harder than everybody else's, but they're accustomed to that way of life. I mean,
Yeah.
they're hard compared to what we think, and having to wash clothes in the river, wash their dishes in the river, that's every day for them. But and when we had to do that, that was really hard,
Yeah.
but for them it's just their way of life, it's just normal. So I forgot where I was going with that. Oh yeah, joyful people. But yeah, I mean, the kids are always smiling and laughing. I mean, they're laughing at everything, even at the expense of people sometimes because they're just so joyful. um, yeah, and initially, when you would maybe come across mosquitoes, and they just have that resting, mean looking face, but then whenever you start talking to them, they're just the sweetest people, and so it's it's easy to view them a certain way. But like you saw in the video with them receiving things or playing or being in a VBS, being in a church service, yeah, their demeanor just changes. And yeah.
Did you
They're
have
beautiful
any
people.
moments where you had to let go of like maybe some kind of instinct to save people from their own lives? Like you see how hard life is, and you just maybe want to
Mm-hmm.
fix it for everybody.
Mm-hmm.
But there's no way you can.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. There's what we call in missions or maybe anywhere a savior complex, that you want to you want to give. And, we've definitely learned that being there and living full time, like you can't just give everything to everybody, like it's just not sustainable.
Yeah.
And it's not healthy, it's not healthy for the people, it's not healthy for you as a missionary, like it's fine to bless people and to be a conduit of somebody else giving to them, that's fine. But to always being receiving things for free or receiving, that's not a healthy way of life, and we have seen how that has backfired in a lot of areas, and so you just have to have discernment, have wisdom on when to do things, when it's okay to give, when the Holy Spirit leads you to do it,
It just depends. And there's different projects that have come in and just gave and left, and they don't work. Things are just sitting there, and because they didn't
Yeah.
really want it in the first
Mm-hmm.
place, but it was somebody's cool idea and it would help. But that's
Mm-hmm.
just not how they do things. And nobody's there to help cultivate that, and there was no ownership in the project, and so
Like people who have flown in to help or
Yeah,
something, but then
not even like our organization or worked with us, just different, yeah,
groups.
yeah,
groups
Yeah.
that come into the area.
really good ideas and stuff, but it doesn't work there.
Yeah. And you kind of see that across the board in missions in general. You hear that a lot. I don't know that a lot of people hear that, but I guess being in missions, you do hear that, like this is, it's not so great to just pour out pounds and pounds of clothes, for people there,
Yeah.
like it's just not it's not healthy for the community. And there's a book called When Helping Hurts, and it's a really good book. And they also have When Healthcare Hurts, and we're just kind of seeing that playing out live in our lives,
No kidding.
so it's really just discernment. And we always have to pray to know what decisions to make.
Yeah. Are you seeing the fruit of your work? Are you seeing people's lives changed, or people feel? Are you seeing people maybe more discipled, or coming with more gusto to faith?
Yeah, we were just talking about this when we do a medical brigade every year, and we show a Jesus film at during the nights. And this year we had 30 people give their lives to Christ during that week. But it's not just like what we're seeing, where it's other communities like that. Our pastor friend who brings our groceries, he said that they had gone to different villages, going door to door, and they were seeing people be saved. And another village about an hour from us had some night crusades, and they were seeing people be saved. So yeah, I mean, God's moving, even though, on the day to day, we kind of feel like, what are you doing, God? But,
Yeah.
Looking back, we're just seeing God change little by little, in the video, we had hosted a marriage conference. We had two pastors and their wives come in from the interior in Honduras, and we did a marriage conference. And that was
Super
a
fun.
big deal because they don't really have those, there's no marriage conferences happening. There's a lot of church conferences, but with the specific context of marriage, they don't have that. And so there's a lot of people, most people aren't married, even though they might have been with each other for a long time. They're not married. But after that, at the end of the year, last year, there were 5 couples who committed to marriage. They had wedding ceremonies, and they committed after years of being together. So
Amazing.
that was
Hey, Sybil.
she's showing us her loose tooth. It's about to fall out. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. We'll do that after. Okay.
Well, a lot of your work is dangerous. What advice or wisdom would you give to people who may be sitting on the sidelines, maybe not following an instruction from the Lord to do something because of fear?
I think it's I don't know about dangerous, but it's not. If you're in the will of God, I mean, God's going to be with you. I mean, it's not to say that you're going to be protected from any kind of harm. I mean, anything we do, there's going to be risk in it. I mean, just going to work in your car, there's risk. Every time I get on the road, I'm like, man, how can you, like, we have to have more faith in everybody else on the road that they're not going to hit us, or they're not going to do something silly, or if they're drinking, or, like that has to be way more. But when God asks you to do something, it's going to be uncomfortable. And so one thing I try to teach the kids is to be comfortable being uncomfortable, because anything God asks you to do is going to be bigger than you, or it's not going to be worth doing. And so it's just going to be of you. But whenever He asks you to do something, it's usually going to be out of your comfort zone. And so that's big things anyway. So that way He can show up and He can get the glory for it. And you can say, that definitely wasn't me.
Mm-hmm.
Like that's all God's work. And that's just how He chooses to work. And so I think as we spend more time with Him in the quiet, and just knowing that He's going to show up and have an expectancy for Him to do what He does, and put ourselves aside and let Him move, then we can start seeing things more. And so as He asks us to do something small, we can step out and do it, and then He'll ask us to do other things.
Yeah. And how has God surprised you lately?
Oh man, just
Well, being here, we've been on furlough for several months, and just surprised us with just new people who have just really wholeheartedly jumped on with the vision, and really wanted to join the team, being partners. That's been such a huge thing. I don't know if you remember in the video, we were building a learning center, and we're going to use that for like tutoring or just continuing education, conferences. The options are or endless, but one of our
One thing, whenever Brad was visiting the village, God gave him a word and said he felt like God said, you guys are going to use this building for just to reach more people, not just in the village and as an outreach. And so he was just like, okay, and he didn't, have any context to it or anything. And so.
But one of our supporters, she works for one of the Texas school districts, and they were getting rid of a bunch of tech. So they donated like 30 iPads, 30 Chromebooks, and 2 like big Promethean boards.
Wow.
And we're just finishing up this learning center. I'm like, I don't know what we're going to do with this. We do have a vision, what we could use it for, but we know by now that God is always preparing his way. And so we're like, okay, let's we'll receive those. And so those are going to be, I think, really great resources. And I'm just excited to see like what God's going to do with it. So
amazing.
Yeah.
Well, how can people support you as you are his hands and feet? Not just for him, but for us in La Mosquitia, in Rus.
Well, there's several ways to give. If I don't know, we can maybe put the link on there. Prayer is definitely the biggest because a lot of times we come across, like you said, dangerous situations, dangerous things, and we need discernment on how to deal with it. Discernment and wisdom on what to say, what to do at the time. So just his covering and his blessing over us, that he would establish the work of our hands. And then you can also join in like monthly or one-time gifts as on the MAG website and support.
And for those who are listening, if you're just listening, it's flymag.org, FLYMAG.org.
Yes. And there's, when you go to give, there's several options and several ways to give on there. So, yeah.
Awesome. Well, thank you both so much for coming on. It's just such a pleasure. It's such a gift to spend some time with you and just hear how God's working in your lives, but also how he's using you and what he's teaching you, because it challenges us, it challenges me to know that you guys have been so faithful and you constantly have to step out on faith. Every day is a faith step, living where you're living and serving the people you're serving. So thank you for loving the people of La Mosquitia. Thank you for being such a blessing to them, for the work that you're doing in healthcare, but also the work you're doing, just sharing the love of Christ, which is the main thing, the absolute main thing. So God bless you. And I think I'll see you later this afternoon.
Yep. Ooh, sounds good. Thank you, Dan. Thank you so much.
Love you guys.
I've enjoyed this.
Yes.
Love you.
And just a reminder to everyone watching, the State of Freedom will be back here live at 10 a.m. Central tomorrow. We will be speaking with Dr. Mary Talley Bowden about the MAHA agenda and the future of hopefully seeing some accountability for all that went down that was so horrible during COVID. So please tune in to us tomorrow. We look forward to being back here with you. All right, God bless. The secret to losing weight 2 times faster has gone viral. See the transformations hundreds of thousands of men, women, and teens are experiencing around the world with the Slenderize drops. These homeopathic hormone-balancing drops are proven to control appetite, support thyroid function, improve energy, boost mood, and increase metabolic rate. To learn more about the drops or other incredible natural wellness and lifestyle products, email me at danielle@freedomstate.us or visit the Shop Our Partners page at freedomstate.us. If you're looking to invest in physical precious metals or convert your 401k to a precious metals backed IRA, please consider making your investment with our trusted partner, Metal Stacks. Their prices regularly beat the big sites and they have no credit card fees or minimums. Shipping is free for orders over $500. Just visit metalstacks.com/dwalker or get there from our website, freedomstate.us. If you're interested in the IRA conversion, drop me a message at danielle@freedomstate.us and I can get you connected with their white glove service. Thanks for joining me today on For the Love of Freedom. It is an honor and a true privilege to get to spend some time with you. If you're looking for other episodes of this show, you can find them on all of the State of Freedom platforms. And a reminder that this show is live on Wednesdays at 10 a.m. Central. God bless.